Hello, hello, my hey, I got something to say, women around the world and men that support us. Are you in for a treat today? I freaking love this woman. Vibha is in the house.
Woohoo!
I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for coming on with the show. I know I've been trying to get you back on for a while. I bump into you, then I'm like, what happened? That's because you're moving and shaking, woman. You're talking about
Yeah.
change makers. You really are walking the walk and talking the talk. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, can you play along with me? I'm going to just do a little bit of a joy jolt, and you can follow along if you want, or you can just, smile and laugh. You ready? Here we go.
Ready?
This is the joy jolt of the month. You're going to love this one. Ready? That's it. You just roll your shoulders, and then you have to bob your head with it. Okay, so that's move number one. Then once you get it
Okay.
going, you just do this back and forth.
Ooh. Ooh. I like that.
All right, we're going to finish up with the holler.
Ooh. All right.
Even seated, it makes me feel better, or
Love it.
silly, or brings joy to me.
Love it.
I
Love it.
don't know, I don't know which one, but thank you for playing along. It's my new thing. And before we tell them about you, I want to jump right into what do you do every single day, Vibha, to get into that powerful, positive mindset? We all want to know.
Yeah. Sadie, that's such a great question because things can get tough, right? Things can get hairy sometimes, and you do have to pump yourself up. And what I do is to say, I believe in the power that I have to make each day count in the life that I want to build. I have the power to do that. And I always challenge and encourage myself to do just one thing every day that moves me forward in my journey. So
One.
just one. Just do
Okay.
one thing every day that moves you forward in your journey, whatever that journey is. Say you want to be a writer, write a few words. You don't even have to write a few pages. Write a few words. Say you want to be a singer, go for karaoke. Whatever it is that brings you joy, whatever it is that you think your journey is, just do one thing every day that moves you forward in that journey. Just take one step every day.
I like that. That's doable. All right.
It's
No,
doable. Break it down into steps and just do one thing every day
I-
because you have the power to make that day count in the life that you want to build.
I'm all about that. Okay. Now, before we dive into it, I'm going to tell them a little bit about you. And trust me, this is just a teeny bit about Vibha. She's the vice president of community impact at the Mainline Chamber of Commerce and the executive director of the Society of Professional Women. What? So happy for her. The largest women's networking in Greater Philadelphia. She's on fire. Vibha has spent her career creating connections, advancing equity, and building community impact. And I can't freaking wait for you to share your wisdom today, woman. I can't even wait because I remember I had you on, like, was it a year ago or longer?
More. Yeah, longer than that. I think pre-COVID even.
Oh, wow.
It's been
Wow.
a long time. It's been a long time, Sandy.
All right. So before we dive in to your 3 Ps and your power statement, what have you been up to? What have you been doing? Tell them a little bit, just a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. So, I came to the chamber almost 4 years ago. And, when we talk about building your own life and taking a step every day that moves you forward in your own journey, I really lived that. I came to this country from India like 30 years ago, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to build a better life for myself. And I, loved writing. I loved communicating. I very quickly created a career for myself in communications as a corporate communications executive. And at 31, I was the youngest VP at a Fortune 500 company leading corporate communications globally. I got a chance to live in London and Hong Kong, and, I worked in Sydney. But I'm also a two-time cancer survivor. And so this is what happens. You can plan, but life happens. and you have to pivot. So, when we're talking about building the life that we want, it's really in our power to put the steps in place to build that life. So just even over the last 3 years, as I, joined the chamber and started building this role, my passion in life is to help others. I want to leave a positive difference in our world. We need a kinder world. We need a more equitable world. We need a world where everybody gets opportunities to live their best lives. And that's what I've been working towards. And the work that I was doing was around communications and marketing. But over the last 3 years, I've done a lot of programming and community engagement work. We built a program called the Talent and Education Network, where we work with high school students in low and moderate income school districts. So, for example, Sandy, the Norristown area high school, 30% of those students will not go to college. They will be looking for
Yeah.
jobs right out of school. How do we make sure that they have economic mobility and they have the best opportunities and they're getting into jobs that create a good life for them? That's the work that I've been doing for the past 3 years. And then this year, I took on leadership of the Society of Professional Women, and I love the work that we do to support each other and advance each other, because guess what? There's still a wage gap for women. Women earn only 80 cents to a dollar that men earn.
Mhm.
So there's still that wage gap. There's still a gap in the C-suite and on corporate boards. So it's important that we do this work, continuing to support each other in the workplace, but I also strongly believe in cultivating the next generation of leaders. So
Mm.
just today, for the first time, Society of Professional Women, SPW, we did a program at the Radnor Middle School today. And I took our community of amazing women leaders, and we went into Radnor Middle School and talked to more than 50 girls about building confidence,
Mm.
about the different jobs that are out there. We talked about, not being held captive to perfection, and getting better, but not like feeling like you have to be perfect all the time. Being okay with not knowing what you want to do, being okay with trying and failing. These
Mm.
are so many important takeaways for girls in middle school. That's the age where they're really starting to, think about self-esteem and body image. And, oh, I don't want to seem smart because, it's not cool to be smart, right? So this is like that age where they're on that cusp of figuring out what they want to do with the rest of their life. And if we can go in and coach them and mentor them and share our experiences and help them understand nobody's perfect, we're all on a journey, and it's just okay to try, and let's be brave and just try. And so that's the work that we did today, and that's the work that I want to do more and more, where we're helping each other, sure, but then we're using our collective knowledge and resources and experience to pay it forward, and really looking at, middle school, high school, college women. How do we make this world a better place for them?
Oh, I'm so glad you're doing all different ages. And it's so fun, isn't it? And it is important. You're like, yes, all about women our age, but man, start them young. Middle school, I love it all. I love it.
Yeah.
And all their needs are all different at every stage.
Yes, yes, absolutely. But it was so inspiring to be in that room today because, we don't often think about middle school girls as, um, you know, individuals, right? Like we're not thinking that they are thoughtful and they are, they have dreams. Like we don't
Yeah.
often think about it that way. But these girls were so engaged and they asked great questions. They talked about their aspirations. It was fascinating to hear how many of them wanted to be doctors,
Really?
psychologists, dermatologists, oncologists, therapists. I'm like, I'm just going to stay in this school right here. Like, all my needs are going to be taken care of by you girls. So it's just inspiring. Somebody wanted to be a pilot, like, amazing, amazing dreams.
Mm.
And how amazing and incredible it is that we as women get a chance to hear those dreams and maybe contribute, even if we can contribute one little bit to
Yeah.
their journey and help them achieve those dreams. Like, I think that's a job well done.
So the audience knows from around the world, what age group are you talking about? Because middle school is different for different countries.
Yeah, I mean, this is Radnor Middle School right in our backyard. So, these were eighth graders.
Eighth graders.
Yeah. And I think eighth grade is a great time because, they're mature enough to take something valuable from this conversation. They're at the cusp of high school. They're starting to think about college and what they want to do later in life. So I just think it's so important for us as women to continue to cultivate and foster that next generation of women leadership.
Absolutely. What do you think? Did they tell you their biggest concerns?
A lot of them, were concerned about this notion of perfection. So,
We're
I
getting
would.
into.
Yeah, I will tell you what. So one of the questions we asked was, we're like, oh, raise your hand if you, I don't even remember what it was, raise your hand about something. And nobody raised their hand. And we said, why aren't you raising your hand? Oh, we said, raise your hand if you like to answer questions in class when you know them. So you know the answer. Do you raise your hand to answer the question? And
Ooh.
and they didn't. And we're like, if you know the answer, why don't you raise your hand? And then it started coming out. Like one girl said, oh, like I feel embarrassed. Another girl said, what if I'm wrong? Another girl said, well, what if somebody makes fun of me? Right? And these are things that you and I feel even today.
Mm,
We don't speak up sometimes because we're like, what if somebody makes fun of me? What if I'm wrong? What if it's, what if like it's not okay? And, for me as an immigrant and as a woman of color, I struggled with this a lot when I first started my journey here in
mm,
the US because, I was like, oh, I have an accent. What if that person doesn't understand what I'm saying? What if they make fun of my accent? Oh, I don't look like them. I don't want to stand out. Like as women, we don't want to stand out many times. We just want to blend in. So we talked a lot today about don't worry about fitting in, be who you are. It's
mm.
important to be who you are. Don't shrink to fit in, right? And so I will tell you, like, we used to go, I love stand up comedy, and we would go for these, comedy shows.
Yeah.
I never would want to sit in the front because I would be like, like how they pick on the
Oh,
audience.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. And I'm like, somebody is going to say, oh, how about you? Like, what's your name? And I would say Vibha. And they're like, what's your name? How do you spell it? And then they would maybe make fun of me. Like, I just didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to be myself. So, the message today really was don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about fitting in. Just, reflect on who you are and what you want to do and go after it. It's okay to fail. It's okay to try. It's okay to fail.
I'm so happy you did that. I'm so happy. And I'm so happy that you're bringing up the importance of going in to the middle schools and how we sometimes forget they are individuals. It's so freaking important.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, we better get into it, Viv, because it's going to be like 5 o'clock somewhere and we'll be still going. I could talk to you that forever. So, the power statement. I said, what's one thing you want to say to women around the world and men that support us?
Yeah.
And
So
you
we've
pick,
already talked a little bit about this, right?
yeah.
So many times in life, we don't get to choose change. We don't get to choose change. Let's think about that 1 second. There's change that we make happen, but there's change that happens to us, right?
Yeah.
And change chooses us. But we have the power to decide how to deal with that change. And only we have the power to change our lives. And, we're going to get into that. I talked about coming here to the US. That was a change that I made. It was a huge change, it was a seismic change, right? And to be in a totally different culture, all by myself, no support system, no family, no friends, starting my life from scratch. It was a change that I chose. But then cancer happened. That wasn't a change that I chose. But I had to figure out how to navigate that and get to the other side. But guess what? I had the power to do that. My support system helped, my friends helped, my husband helped, my daughter helped. That was really important to have. But at the end of the day, I and only I had the power to get through that change. And we'll talk about how I did that when we get into, the
Oh.
conversation of the three P's that we talked about, that you and I talked about. But I firmly believe we have it inside of us. We have the power to change our own life at any point in our life. Like I've heard people say, oh, I'm too old. Oh, like I can't do this now. Yes, you can. We have the power to change our life at any point in our life.
So I got a lot of questions about this. So we're
Yeah.
gonna get into them right now. And I always make up names because they want me to keep them private. So we'll just call this one Sally Bell.
Yeah. Hi, Sally Bell.
Sally Bell says, I'm kind of going to summarize it because it's the voice of many, many questions I got. When you talk about that and you talk about get to choose change and change chooses us, and we have the power to decide how we want to deal with that change. Sally Bell wants to know, Vibha, was there a time in your life you didn't feel that way? Was there a time in your life that you were, she says, taken to your knees, that you couldn't see the power to change? You just couldn't see it. And then what got you out of that mindset? I'm going through a really tough time right now, and it just seems like you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. When I was first diagnosed with cancer, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Nobody has had cancer in my family. There was no history of cancer. It was so unexpected. I was only, I was not even 40 years old. And I got hit by a really aggressive GI cancer.
Mm.
It was so rare that they sent my tissue to Harvard University because it was such a rare form of cancer and it was pretty aggressive. It hit
Oh
me like
my.
a ton of bricks. My daughter was really young at that time. And, my concern was what's going to happen to her? Who's going to look after her?
Yeah.
Like we worry about our kids. And I couldn't see the path ahead. I didn't know how I was gonna get out of it. I think what helped me then, honestly, was my family and my friends network. But more than anything else, I, really harnessed my internal power and positivity to get through it.
Mm.
What I mean by that, Sandy, is I'm not being a Pollyanna. It's not about saying every day, oh, I'm so great. Everything will be okay. That's not what this is. There are days when I would just cry and I would wallow in self pity and be like, why is this happening to me? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, why am I being punished? Those kinds of feelings, right? Of feeling overwhelmed. But then I would get up the next morning and I would be like, I can do this. And that statement of I know how to do this is really important because I can guarantee you we've all been through change of some sort, right? It might not be a huge change, but we've all been through change. So we know how to get through change. We just have to remember that we got through it. And we have to take that memory and say, hey, I did it then, so I can do it now. I know how to do this. I got this. That's what I mean when I talk about us having the power to navigate change and us having the power to change our lives because we know how to do this. We've done this over and over again. Has anybody had a kid? Has anybody had a child? That's a huge change in our life, right? We did it. Have you changed a job? I'm sure many, many of us have changed jobs in our lives, right? We did it. We got through it. Have you maybe been through a divorce? You did it. You got through it. We know how to do change. We do change every single day. We know how to do change. We just have to remind ourselves we know how to do this. We got this because we've done this before.
So there's
The other thing I just want to
yeah.
mention, Sandy, like, so I'm Indian, you know, and we have a long history of spirituality in
Mhm.
our, ethos and in our lives. The one thing that's really, really helped me, and I really would encourage everybody to try to internalize this, is that nothing is permanent. If we can believe that, if we can believe nothing is permanent, we know we'll get through it. It's not going to last forever. Whatever it is that you're going through right now, whether it's good or bad, nothing is forever. So if you can just internalize that and say, hey, this is just one thing in my life. Tomorrow is not going to be the same as today. It helps us get through that. It helps us keep things in context. Things
Yeah.
don't appear overwhelming. Like I was in a car accident once, and I could have just let that overwhelm me. Like I've heard people get stuck in traffic and be like, this is the worst day ever. Is it really the worst day ever? You know, if we can just say to ourselves, it's okay. Like, yeah, I'm hurt. Yes, I'm anxious. Yes, I'm stressed. Yes, this was awful, but it's not permanent. I am going to get through it. And that helps. That helps a lot for us to stay positive and stay on track.
So I just want to make sure that I'm hearing this correctly, because I'm telling you, I got loaded with questions about this. And by the way, thank you so much for sharing your story, because I really do think it's going to help so many people hearing your story. You weren't all pippy skippy and, like you said, oh, I've got this, and rainbows and roses every day. There were
Yeah.
days that brought you to your knees. Do you feel like, yes, you knew it was within you, it's not permanent, you do have the ability to handle this change? Do you think it also, on the days that you couldn't get there, it really is important to have that support system, those family and those friends to pick you up when you can't get there?
Oh, I cannot tell you the importance of community. We know this. We know that, there are statistics that say people who have community and good social networks live longer than people who are isolated. Like, so if you've ever heard of the blue zones, there's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
conversation around blue zones and longevity. And one of the things that is so important that has been, verified and there's data behind it is that people who have community live longer and they live happier lives. Community is so important. This is why I love the work that I'm doing with the Society of Professional Women, because we're building that support network. And that's what this is about. How do we support each other? Like they say, clap for others until it's time to clap for you. Let's lift each other up. We're living in such a divisive world right now, and it's hard. There's so many challenges out there. How can we be kinder to each other? How can we support each other? There's no way that I could have gotten through, my two battles with cancer if it hadn't been for my family, my support network, my friends, my colleagues. Even a simple gesture like somebody dropping off a plate of food at my door and saying, I know it's tough. I don't know if, somebody has cooked for today. Here's some food, right? Like it's a simple gesture. So if we can just be kind to each other
Yeah.
and support each other, I think we would make the world so much of a better place. And 100%, there's nothing like community to lift you up and support you when you're down.
My word for the year, Vib, I always pick an overall word besides the word for a day,
Yeah.
is abundance. And it's an abundant mindset.
Yes.
Helping others to see it's not, if they get it, you don't. It's an and. There's room for everyone. And by supporting and lifting each other up, your turn will come. And I know so
Yes.
many people feel like, oh God, if I heard so and so got this, then I'm not going to. That's not true. That's not true.
Well, I'll also say, Sandy, that social media has really exacerbated that issue of comparing.
Oh,
You know,
that's true. Yeah.
comparison is the thief of joy. So when you talk about leading an abundant life, we're always like looking at Facebook and LinkedIn and being like, oh, like look at her, like she's traveling, or he, like, look, we don't know what their life is like.
So true.
That is not their whole life. So, when when I went through my battles with cancer, I would never post any pictures online. Like, I just wasn't a Facebook person. I was also embarrassed of the way I looked. I didn't feel like I photographed well. I mean, we're so critical of ourselves. And that's what
Yeah.
I talk about when I talk about perfectionism. So remember, I was wearing a jacket and I said, I'm going to take my jacket off. I did not wear sleeveless clothes until I was 45, until my second bout with cancer, because I just felt like my arms were too big.
Oh,
And I was in Europe after my second battle with cancer, and it was hot as heck. And I'm like, you know what? I just I just beat cancer. I can wear sleeveless clothes. Like, what the heck am I doing? This is what we do to ourselves. Like, we're so critical of ourselves, and who cares? Like, is somebody looking at my arms and going, oh my God, she's like massive arms? Like, who's doing that? Nobody's doing that. It's just in our own head. So,
oh,
like, let's not sweat the small stuff, guys. Like, let's live our life with joy and abundance. But, talking about comparison is the thief of joy and not knowing other people's lives, I posted a picture of myself in Europe on Facebook. And somebody who doesn't know me very well said, commented, oh, I wish I had your fairy tale life. And I'm
stop
like,
your nonsense. Stop your nonsense. No.
yeah, I wish I had your fairy tale life. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you. I do have a fairy tale life. I have a great family. I have great friends. I beat cancer twice. Oh, I have a fairy tale life, right? But the point is, she didn't know anything about my life. So from the outside in, it looked like I was having a great time in Europe.
Yeah.
What she didn't
Yeah.
know is that I'd beat cancer right before going to Europe. I'd had a massive surgery. I was still recovering. I still needed to go through radiation. And in between, my husband's like, you know what? We're going. We're taking you from here. We're going. She didn't know anything about my
Awesome.
life. And that's what we do to ourselves. We compare ourselves to other people. We think they have a great life. And that steals our joy because we feel like we should be there, or we could have been there, or that's what we should have been
Why
doing.
not me?
Right.
I
Why
can.
not me? Right? Like, what did they do to get there that I didn't do? So, like, all that guilt and, shame and regret and things that we feel like shoulda, woulda, coulda, we do that because we compare ourselves to others rather than just living our own life, finding joy in what we want to do, making the change that we need to make, and understanding that everybody's journey is different.
Amen, sister. And you know what? We know it logically, but we constantly need to support each other and remind each other because
Yes.
because there's lots of amazing things about social media, but because of those traps you fall in before you know it, even at subconscious level, you're stuck in there. But I want
Yes.
to make sure because I love these freaking three P's, and I want to break them down into
Yeah.
because you spent we talked about perfection, and I
Yes.
start with that, and I got a lot of questions about this, so I wanted to address. We'll call her Betty Boo. Why is perfection such a trap? She believes, particularly for women. She says it doesn't seem like my male friends has the same hangups that I do.
Yeah. So, it's interesting that she mentioned sort of the male perspective. So, I'm sure you've heard this statistic that men apply for a job when they meet only 60% of the qualifications listed, while women only apply if they feel like they meet 100% of the qualifications listed. We are so hard on ourselves. And I think it stems from societal pressures and the way we're brought up. There's a great book by Reshma Sojani that's titled Brave Not Perfect,
Oh,
where she
oh, God,
talks,
freedom.
yeah, brave not perfect.
Okay.
And she talks about how little girls, when we're growing up, we're like, don't climb that tree, you're gonna fall, don't climb that tree, right? So right from the beginning, we're told not to try because we might fail. We might fall down and hurt ourselves. Whereas boys, according to this book, boys are like climbing trees and falling and making mistakes. And, oh, that's just boys being boys. So, right from the beginning, the way our culture has systematically treated girls is don't try it because you're going to fail.
Mm,
Whereas boys are given that much more leeway to take risks. So men land up taking more risks. They tend to have more confidence. They're like, I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm just gonna do it anyway. Whereas
mm.
women are like, I've got to be great. I've got to be perfect. We work so hard to be perfect. And we won't try things because we don't think we are. We have so much doubt. I was reading something the other day that said, doubt kills more dreams than failure. We don't even try because we're
I don't-
afraid of failing. And, if you think of perfectionism as something that holds you back, like think about, when I struggled with cancer and then I was in remission, I had to let go of my powerful corporate career. I could not travel the way I was traveling before. I couldn't hop on a train and go to New York and do investor roadshows and media relations and 60-hour work weeks. I just didn't have the energy or the ability to do that. And I had to pivot. And I ran my own little business and I, worked for a nonprofit organization. And, I did a lot of things that I'd never done before. But if I'd waited to be perfect, I would have never gone and worked for a nonprofit. I would have never started my business. And none of that would have happened. And that journey to this point in my life wouldn't have happened if I just kept waiting to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't always great. Some things I did well, some things I didn't, but I learned from all of them. That's why perfectionism can be such a trap because it stops you from even trying things. It stops you from doing things that bring you joy. So I'm speaking with you today, Sandy. I can honestly tell you, I would not have been able to do this 6 years ago or 7 years ago. I would get panic attacks at the thought of public speaking. I would get like sweats, like my armpit would be dripping by now from, like putting myself out there,
First, yeah.
right? But I made myself do it. And the way I made myself do it is just practice, practice, practice. And I get so much joy out of doing this because I'm able to, if I can help somebody with my story, if I
Mm.
can coach somebody, if I can mentor somebody, I'm helping somebody's life. I'm helping somebody build a better life. And that brings me so much joy. And if I had just waited to be perfect, I wouldn't have done that. And I would have missed out on this whole joyful experience that I get from just being able to do this.
So somebody out there who's listening or watching this, and they've been a perfectionist for a long time. I mean, I have so many women that they like, I know I shouldn't be doing this. What is one thing they can do or say to themselves to help break this habit? Because they know it about themselves. Matter of fact, I have clients. Most of my clients will say, listen, I'm just going to warn you, I'm not changing. I'm a perfectionist. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think we, maybe touched upon this a little bit before, but one of the reasons, two things. One, we want to be so perfect not for ourselves, but for others. A lot of what we do is around people pleasing. And oh, I've got to be, and women are so much a part of this where we want to do our absolute best every single time in every single thing. We want to be the perfect mom. We want to be the perfect coworker. We want to be the perfect employee. We want to be the perfect boss. And so we put so much pressure on ourselves. And that's not about pleasing us, it's about pleasing others. We take on so much more than we need to. We take on so much because we want to please everybody. Like I remember when my daughter was little and I was, like struggling with my health. I'm like, no, no, no. I gotta bake like 3 dozen cupcakes because she's having this thing at school, and I've got to make the best cupcakes possible. And then I've got to come home and then I've got to cook dinner. And I had already started working, and then I need to do like this budget for this board meeting. And like, why do I put so much pressure on myself? Like, would it have really mattered if I'd like dropped one of those things or said, you know what, I'm going to do this tomorrow. I'm not going to do it this time. I'm not going to bake for this time's bake sale. It's okay. But I did that because I wanted to please somebody, right? I wanted to please my daughter, or I wanted to please the PTO. So if we can let go of like people pleasing, I think that helps. The other thing I think that helps is again giving ourselves some grace and kindness and saying to ourselves, I don't need to do it all. It's okay. Like, don't sweat the small stuff. So, I always give myself this example when I find myself, falling into that trap. I
Yeah.
used to be somebody whose house had to be clean all the time, not a hair out of place, right?
Ah.
Everything where it should be and everything in its place. And then I got hit with cancer. I had to let go of that. I couldn't run around cleaning my house and vacuuming and mopping and straightening out the cushions and making sure the laundry was in the right basket in the right room. And people would stop by to see me or to say hello. And in the beginning, that gave me anxiety. I'm like, oh, this person is stopping by and, my house is messy. And then I'm like, you know what? They're stopping by to see me. They're stopping by because they're my friend. And if they care about that laundry basket on the floor more than they care about seeing me, then maybe they're not my friend. So understanding that it's okay to let go of the small stuff and keeping the big picture in mind, I think that can help you kind of let go of perfection.
So I want to make sure we get this in because I really, really love the way you put this together, Vibha. I got the three P's. We touched on perfection. And thank you. It's a reminder for all of us, all of us, all of us. And you start talking about the people pleasing. Is there, I have to tell you what I've done because it's hard for me. I put stick-em notes all over my office as a freaking reminder that I'm allowed to say no.
Yes.
And by the way, when I started to say no to more things, because it was just like too, I can't, and I got new people living with me now and helping up kids, and they didn't know, and but everyone's expecting me to do the same amount. I got pushback. I really did. It was hard because they're like, well, wait a minute. And like you said, they didn't know my story. I took in 3 young people that had nowhere to live, and so I couldn't do it all. And I thought, well, wait a minute, am I going to give them an explanation? Heck no. And I really did see which of the people and the circles that I wanted to hang around with more than the others, which ones, the networking events I really loved, who the people were, the ones that when I said I really can't make it, that those were the people and the women and men that I wanted to be with. But it was really hard for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Sandy, you've touched on such an important thing. Like, you have to choose your tribe. It's okay to let people go.
It's so
And
hard though. So freaking.
somebody, but let me tell you this analogy, which really, like, I live by this mantra. So somebody said to me, I don't even remember where I was. Like sometimes we just hear speakers and we're like, oh my God, like this is what I was waiting to hear.
Yeah.
So, obviously I've gone through a lot of transition. I've left like family and friends back in India, and I've gone through like a huge professional change in my life. And I've left those people, like they've fallen away, right? They could have been a part of my life, but they're not. And somebody said to me, imagine that you are in a play. Your life is a play, and you are the hero or heroine of that play. And you get to choose who's in the front seat. Those seats are complimentary. Those are your people. You get to choose who's in those front seats. And sometimes you might need to move some of those people out of the front seat to the back seat, or sometimes you might even have to kick them out of the theater because they're no longer supporting you. They're no longer sitting there clapping for you,
I
right?
love that analogy. I love it.
So brilliant and so simple. Your life, your stage, you're the main character in
Yeah.
your own life, and you get to choose who's in that front row. If you don't like them, kick them out.
I'll
They
always
they don't get
remember that.
they don't get complimentary tickets no more to your life.
I love that. Oh my God, Vibha. All right, let's get into the third P,
Yeah.
procrastination.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't tell you. Well, I did. We got a lot of questions about this one, but let's just sum it up by saying, okay, just give me one little tidbit, one little trick that I can break out of it. Because it's so easy, as this woman says, for me not to go after my big dreams and just keep doing everything for everybody else.
Yeah. Oh, huge. The thing with procrastination, what's helped me a lot, and again, this is a journey, right, Sandy? Like, we don't become wise in a day. It takes years and years and years and years, and we're still not wise,
Lifetimes, yeah.
right? But what's helped me, and we know this, don't look at the don't look at the top of the mountain, right? Don't like look at the top of the mountain and go, I don't know how to get there. Just take one step up, and then take another step up, and then take a break, and then maybe take another step up. And then you're like, hey, I took 3 steps. I'm going to take 3 more steps. So the thing with procrastination is you just got to get started. It's that inertia we have. And many times, again, this goes back to perfection. It's that fear that holds us back. I have friends who are like, I want to write a book. Well, why aren't you writing one? What's stopping you? Oh, well, I don't have time. I don't think people would like that. I don't think that's a good topic. I don't know if I can really do it. Like, we make thousands of excuses to ourselves.
Mm.
Most of it around these kinds of general themes, right? Not having time. I'm too old. That time's gone. It's not the right time. Just start. I think just the act, like if you can get past that initial fear and inertia and say, I'm just going to take the first step. I'm going to take one step. And that's what we talked about right in the beginning. Take that one step that moves you forward every day. Just one step. Like if you've got 1,000 steps, you're not going to look at the 1,000th step first. You're going to look at the first step, and then you're going to climb the second, and then you're going to climb the third. And before you know it, you'll find yourself, midway, and you're halfway there.
Yeah.
So, rather than standing at the bottom of the stairs and saying, I'll climb it tomorrow, just climb it today. Climb one step today. Don't climb 1,000, just climb one today.
My goodness, so true. I was just telling my son that about he was getting overwhelmed about cleaning his closet.
Yeah,
Like a debacle. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, just give me 15 minutes. Break
just
it down.
one.
Because you just keep throwing stuff in there and avoiding it.
Break it down into little bites. You can do that. Like, we
Okay.
don't sit with a plate full of food and eat the whole plate at the same time, right?
Probably not. Yeah.
I mean, it would be great if we could, but we take little bites. And then before we know it, the plate's empty. Like, maybe we shouldn't have eaten so much, but that's how we break things. If we can break things down in steps, in sound bites and little bites, we can get it done. It's that just that initial inertia and fear that we have to get through. And to tell ourselves, I'm just going to take one step. That's all, just one step.
Oh, Vibha, I'm so glad we got together.
Yeah.
And we got to wrap up. And I know we went over. I don't give a flying kite. I love everything that you were sharing with the audience. But before we go, a couple things. Number one, is there anything that we didn't get in that you want to share with women around the world and men that support us?
Yeah. To me, I would say the two things that have really helped me are resilience and adaptability. Like, we go back to the fact that change happens. How do you adapt? Leave yourself open to possibilities. Leave yourself open to change. If you fixate on a specific path and then get devastated because you weren't able to achieve that specific goal, or you weren't able to carry on the path that you were on, you're never going to be able to pivot and maybe achieve something even more wonderful that you
Mm.
probably haven't even thought about today. We're all capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for. The other day I was somewhere and somebody said, raise your hand as high as you can. And I did this. And they're like, now just raise it a little bit more. And I did this. And they're like, do you think you could do another inch more? And I did this. So I could. Like, why did I start with here? Like, why did I just do that? Right? We're all
So true.
we're all capable of reaching higher than we think we are. We all have it in ourselves to do it. We just have to give ourselves the permission to do it.
I love that. And for those of you who can't see Vibha, she was like, her hand was like halfway up and then a little bit more instead of just raising it up all the way at first. It's great.
Yeah.
All right, I got pages and pages of little sentences, little analogies, all things I'm going to refer to. I'm going to have to make a lot of new laminations and stick them when we're done. Okay, before you take us out with, I think you have a signature move you're going to do with us. How can they reach you? How can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Please connect with me. I would love to connect with you. That's really the best way to find me.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to take this. Hey, I got something to say out like we came in. And I asked Ivo before she came on, does she want to lead it? And she said, yes, she has a pose, I think it is. So whatever it is, I'm into it.
So this is my pose when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed or not feeling like I can do something. I just spread my arms really wide and out, open my chest, take a deep breath in, and I'm opening up my body and my mind and my heart to the possibilities that are out there. And it makes me feel like I can do it. I can do this. So, to everybody who's listening, spread your arms wide, open up your chest, take a deep breath, and open up your heart to possibilities.
It's so simple. And I love that. You feel so powerful.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes.
All right, my hey, I got something to say. People, thank you so much for your support. And guess what? I know how much that even through the ups and downs, you've been with me. You've shared it to people around the world. There are men that has come on and shared their stories. I really do appreciate it. I love that you send me all your movement, words, and laughter routines. It doesn't have to be my routine. I'm truly grateful for that. And Vibha and I would really appreciate it so much if you shared, liked, rated, and subscribed. And until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Thank you, Vibha, and toodles.
Bye. It was so fun talking to you, Sandy, and thank you for all you do. You're appreciated.
Thank you, honey.
Bye.